Casey Johnson, kind enough to join us. He's got a lot to write about here. He's the beat writer for the Chicago Tribune. His most recent article is, "We're moving on. Jim Boylan and his players meet to build trust after the Bulls' historic loss." When did this mess start, Casey?
Well, that depends on who you talk to, Dan. Obviously, the coaching change was made last week from Fred Hoiberg to Jim Boylan, and management at that time talked about needing more accountability, talked about needing a better culture. So management might have one answer for that. As far as where the current mess started, it started really from the first day Jim Boylan took over from Fred Hoiberg. Jim Boylan not only is coaching to his true personality, but also feels emboldened by a mandate, an organizational mandate given to him by ownership and management to change the culture. And so he is being confrontational. He's being direct. He's being tough. He's demanding a lot of players, and those players push back late Saturday night with talk of a possible boycott of Sunday's practice, which ultimately never materialized, but as you mentioned, gave us plenty to write about.
Okay, the biggest issue they have is what? Being pushed too hard?
Well, the biggest issue they have is they're not a very good basketball team. Let's start there. Obviously, they're in the second season of a full rebuild following the June 2017 Jimmy Butler trade. They've been incredibly injured. Critical core players, Chris Dunn, Bobby Portis, Lauri Markkanen, Denzel Valentine were all out. Markkanen has since come back. Portis and Dunn returned last night. So let's start there. They're not a good team. They're also a young team. They don't know how to win in the NBA. They're trying to navigate a full rebuild, and they're not obviously healthy, so that does not help matters. And then, they obviously with the coaching change, that was a tumultuous situation. They enjoyed playing for Fred Hoiberg. He's a player-friendly coach. He gives players a lot of freedom. And Jim's got a very different style. And, Jim was the associate head coach. It's not like they don't know him. But as we all know, when you move from that head, one chair over from the lead assistant to the head coach, you're in a different role now. And players, not all players, but obviously some players are initially chafing at that approach.
Who's the leader of this team?
When you're talking about a young basketball team, that's to be determined. I mean, obviously you'd like it to be one of your core players that you're building around, like a Zach LaVine or a Lauri Markkanen, but those are young guys trying to figure it out. Zach took a very vocal role in that team meeting, so that's probably a good sign. You've got the sage old veteran Robin Lopez, who doesn't play as much anymore, but has seen a little bit of everything in his decade plus in the NBA, so he's obviously helped navigate this situation a little bit. And look, I know this has created a lot of headlines and a lot of talk, which is why I'm speaking to you, and it's fun. But I will say that, the team is in a better place moving from Saturday night to Sunday night. I mean, if you're firing off a group text exchange talking about boycotting practice, and then ultimately you have a 2-hour team meeting and guys are yelling at each other and getting everything out in the open, you can't help but be in a better place. Now it's just obviously got to take hold on the basketball court.
Yeah, but Chicago's famous for having tough coaches here. So I'm guessing the fan base is probably going to be on the side of Jim Boylan. Would that be fair to say?
Well, I mean, he's unproven. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's funny because you talk about a 2-decade-plus career assistant who's getting his first chance. That seems to bring him to my mind the name Tom Thibodeau, but he's certainly not as accomplished early as Tom Thibodeau. Tom Thibodeau won 62 games in his first season, albeit with a much better roster. You say that they have had tough coaches, and they have, but Phil Jackson used to sit there with his legs crossed when they won 6 championships and call timeout. He also had Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen out there running around for him, so that helped things. But under this managerial regime of John Paxson and Gar Forman, Dan, they've kind of gone back and forth. John Paxson inherited Bill Cartwright from Jerry Krause. He moved to Scott Skiles, more of a taskmaster. Then they moved to Vinny Del Negro, more of a player-friendly. Then they moved to Tom Thibodeau, tough-minded. Then they moved to Fred Hoiberg, player-friendly. And now they're back to Jim Boylan. It's the age-old adage in sports. You kind of swing the pendulum and go the other way.
So they were going to boycott practice. And then reportedly a couple of players went to the Players Association to kind of tattle on their coach to say, and maybe tattle is not the right word, but They were saying, look, this is what's going on after back-to-back games, and now we have a 2-hour practice here. Is that right?
Well, yeah. Yahoo Sports first reported that. I was able to independently confirm that. I believe it was one, maybe two players. And look, there's not a lot the Player Association can do except listen and pat them on the back. It's not like Jim Boylan is, doing anything incredibly untoward. I will say he is being unconventional. I mean, Dan, the second practice that he held, not only did it go 2.5 hours, he then bragged to us, meager beat writers about all the wind sprints he made them run. I mean, this is not typical stuff, particularly in December. Maybe in September you're hearing stuff like that from coaches, but not really in December. He's also having them do push-ups. He showed them film clips in the direct aftermath of his first game of coach, a loss at Indiana, a 6-point loss. He broke out the film right there in the post-game locker room. So players are just kind of, it's a different role for Jim. They're trying to figure out Jim. Jim's trying to figure out his team, and off we go as they lose basketball games.
Yeah, I was just wondering, why not keep Hoiberg in there, let him run out the string, be a bad team, get a high draft pick, and then make a coaching change here?
Well, management directly answered that question, and particularly taking your logic, and which is one that I was subscribing to as well, particularly when they're about to get healthy. Fred Hoiberg got Lauri Markkanen for one game. Chris Dunn and Bobby Portis's return were on the horizon. They came back last night under Jim Boylan. So Fred Hoiberg was clearly coaching and working under the impression that he was going to at least get a chance with a healthy roster. Management directly questioned about that dynamic, said the fundamental problems they were seeing would not have been masked by a bump or a win streak by players returning to the rotation. So they saw some pretty fundamental issues, which is exactly what I'm talking about here, where not only is Jim Boylan coaching to his true personality, he's doing so emboldened by this organizational mandate. He feels he has free reign to coach this way, mandated by management and even more importantly by ownership. So this could be bumpy over these next 50 games. Jim has acknowledged as such, and we'll see how it plays out.
Thank you, Casey. We appreciate your time. Good luck.
All right. Thanks, Dan. Take it easy.
Casey Johnson. He's a Bulls beat writer, Chicago Tribune.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.